Good evening, and good evening to all of you who are joining us from across the globe. My name is Matt Yuan, and I'm the founder and CEO of CountN. Tonight on CountN Live, we have Boston's very own Prateek joining us, who will share with us a beautiful performance, his story of how he became an artist, and a heartwarming message to all of us in this difficult time. Now, it is without a doubt that the coronavirus has impacted the lives of millions of people, both in the United States and across the world. A group that has been hit particularly hard is the artistic community, and especially the musical community. Now, many of you are joining us tonight are artists yourselves and have taken the leap of faith to pursue your own creative endeavors. On the other hand, there are many of you who are joining us from your own living room and are not in the arts or in music, but you're working from home and you're practicing social distancing, and we are thankful that you are here. But you may be wondering, what is it like to live the life of an artist? What is it like to be a full-time touring musician? Tonight, we're going to give you a rare glimpse into how that's like, and we will show you exactly what it means to be a full-time musician who has given his or her life to the creative pursuits. All contributions made tonight will go to the record company's Boston Music Maker Fund and to our own performer, Prateek. The Boston Music Maker Relief Fund is a fund set up by the record company, a nonprofit in Boston that is helping musicians who have been impacted by the coronavirus in the past couple weeks. Now, to kick us off, for the first 3 people who will donate $200 or more, I will personally write you an original song with a topic of your choosing and perform it for either you or whoever you choose to have me perform it to. Prateek, our performer, also has made a very generous offer to serenade the first 10 people who will contribute to this campaign. You can contribute directly through this Facebook campaign, or if you're joining us through YouTube or another platform, through the link below. Now, to kick us off, we have Prateek from Boston joining us once again, who will be performing for us his original song, Diamond. Prateek is a well-known local artist in the Boston area. He has been nominated for multiple awards, including the New England Music Awards in 2018 for being the Best Songwriter, in 2019 for being the Best Male Performer, and most recently for the Boston Music Awards in 2019 as the Best Singer-Songwriter. His song can be heard across multiple radios as well in the local area, including Sirius XM, WERS, 92.5 The River, and many more. Now please welcome Prateek performing his song, Diamond.
Don't you tell me that you don't know how it burns to cry alone when the sunset fades and all you've got are the tear-stained sheets and your racing thoughts. There's always strings left untied. There's always one more last goodbye. And this world will break you if you don't allow your knees to hit the floor. Stars ain't diamonds, rain ain't tears, love don't last 1,000 years. We build our walls, we lock our gates, but we'll all be dirt someday. I knew this dancer, dressed all in black, dug her nails into my back, but she pulled away by and by. It's times like these I remember why. Stars ain't diamonds, and rain ain't tears, and love don't last 1,000 years. We build our walls, we lock our gates, but we'll all be in the dirt someday. Stars ain't diamonds, rain ain't tears, love don't last 100,000 years. We build our walls, we lock our gates, but we'll all be dirt someday. We'll all be in the dirt someday.
Wow, Prateek, that was such an incredible song. Thank you so much for joining us. Really glad to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
So, you've been playing gigs and shows around Boston for a little while, but from what I understand, your journey as an artist, it really started in Pennsylvania, I think, when you were in college. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about how that came to be, you know, whether there was any interest in music before or, you know, anything that inspired you? Why don't you tell us more?
Yeah. So my parents started me on piano lessons when I was 4. So I sort of had, very early entry into sort of music in general. And then when I was in 4th grade, I joined the school band. That was the earliest that you could join. And I was a band geek throughout middle school and high school. But like you said, my journey with like my music and writing my own music in particular didn't really start until I was in college. And I'd always had the idea that I wanted to be a musician. I picked up the guitar when I was in middle school, and I've been playing all through high school outside of band. But I didn't really start to write my own stuff until I was in college. And once I wrote my first couple of songs and started learning how to accompany myself on guitar instead of just playing guitar solos, once the sort of the guitar and the voice and the songwriting and everything started to come together, that was it. And it just didn't look back.
So you basically started off kind of doing, you did music for a good while growing up, but
yes,
I guess when you started off doing guitar and songwriting, would you say that that's when you quote went from, say, an instrumentalist to a musician or an artist?
Yeah. 100%. I think what happened was that as the minute that I picked up an instrument, something about it just felt right, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, I want to express something. But it wasn't until I started really writing my own songs and playing the guitar and singing and having all those come together, that what that thing I wanted to express was came together.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So it all came together once. It was like a gradual kind of build, and it kind of came together.
Yes, very much in stages.
Now, when most folks finish college, and I understand that that's where your musical journey began.
Yeah.
That when college, like when you finish college, that's kind of a time, at least in your life, where you need to not decide, but at least have some sort of idea of
Yep.
what you're going to do in your professional life for your
Mhm.
occupation. Did you go straight into music, or did you work a couple jobs first? Like, how did tell me more about that?
Yeah. So when I graduated college, I knew that at some point I wanted to be a musician for a living, but I knew that point wasn't going to be right away when I was just starting out. So I definitely worked a couple of different service and retail jobs. I worked at Panera Bread for a little while. I was
Wow.
worked as a picture framer, which is probably kind of like my favorite non-music related
Okay.
job, just because it was really interesting.
Huh.
But yeah, I did that, worked a couple of different side jobs for about 4 years or so out of college. And eventually it just got to the point where I realized where, music was just the thing that took up more and more of my time. As I played more shows, as I gigged more often, as I wrote more songs, started
Right.
getting write-ups from local press and things like that. Eventually just started to become, more and more of my life, until I realized that it was just like, all right, let's just put everything on this.
Right. But okay, so I'm curious about the whole picture framing thing. Did
Yeah.
you like what were you doing? Were you building frames, or people took photos and you just framed them for them?
Yeah.
Kind of how it
So
worked?
what happened was the actual building of the frames was in a warehouse. So there were a bunch of guys in a warehouse who would cut molding to specifications. That basically people would come in with whatever they, their photographs or, their artwork or whatever they wanted framed. And what we would do, the folks working in the store,
Uh-huh.
is we would basically put together matting. That's what's the sort of like, if you see the colored paper that's around a
Yep.
photograph. So that's what that's called. So we would
Wow.
put together the matting and everything and decide, like, here's the kind of glass you should use, here's the kind of frame we think you should use. The
Uh-huh.
folks in the warehouse would cut the frame to the dimensions that we ordered, and then we put together everything, including the glass, the matting, or whatever. So it
Uh-huh.
was a really fun job. Got to work, do a lot of, a lot of creative stuff. Got to work with my hands, which I really like.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that's pretty inspirational. So you kind of, very interesting as well. I didn't expect that that was what you did before kind of, going full time. And so,
Yeah.
but from what I understand, it was kind of a gradual process for you. So you took a couple jobs after college, worked at Panera, worked a bunch of other places, worked in photo framing, and then you decided to go full time.
Mhm.
And you talked about this a little bit, but what made you decide to go full time? Like, was there some sort of inspiration? Did you woke up with like a aha, like this is what I'm going to be doing kind of moment, or
Yeah.
it just happened?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I think it was a little bit less of an aha moment.
Mhm.
But kind of backing up, I always knew that I went into sort of, playing at open mics and testing out my songs with the idea that, like, someday I'm going to do this for a living. So it was
Mm.
kind of less of like an aha moment and more like searching for a when. It's gonna be like, all right, when do I go full time?
Yeah.
And eventually I thought the when was going to be, something, like kind of dramatic, but what it really ended up being was that I was playing more shows, and, I was trying to like record my songs and, play around as often as I could, and, like try to, and like pitch my songs to like, blogs and newspapers and stuff like that. And eventually trying to juggle that with day jobs that I didn't find fulfilling,
Mhm.
just got to be too much. And at first I thought, I worked a couple of different jobs. So I thought it was like, oh, okay, so it just must be, like whatever day job I'm working.
Mhm.
But, trying a couple of different things, it just ended up being like, no, I really just don't want to do anything other than
Right.
music. So finally it got to the point where there was just I can't remember exactly when
Mhm.
I first had this thought, but I just had the thought that, no matter how stressed out I get by music, I still want to do it.
Mm.
And and then eventually when I did go full time with music, that just confirmed that, because no
Mhm.
matter how, how much I was worrying about deadlines or making the ends meet, I
Right.
was just like, oh, I care about this. I'm still passionate about it,
Yeah.
no matter how difficult it gets.
Yeah, and that's in the midst of having to, I guess, juggle kind of, finding gigs, like running all the logistics,
Yeah,
doing all the marketing of being
yeah,
an artist, and you know, doing things as mundane as like taxes for an artist, which can get
yep,
complicated.
yeah,
So
because yeah,
you
it's
were
a business
still
thing,
like,
you know.
I can do this. Like, I'm not getting bored. I'm still happy with this. Uh,
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
I've got the
absolutely.
motivation to do it. Okay. So
Yeah, and I think that's really what it is, because it's less about, some people will say, like, when you find something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I think that's really not true. It's more that you're generally just going to want to work.
yeah, I like that.
Is
It's like,
really
oh,
what
I
it
know
comes
this.
down
Wow.
to it.
Just keep
Yeah.
going, work
Yeah.
more,
Yeah.
That's what we do. That's
Yeah.
great. So it was really kind of, it wasn't an inspiration for you, but it was more like, okay, I'm gradually going into this.
Yeah.
And um, at some point I realized that, hey, it's as difficult as anything else I've done, but
Yes.
I don't feel like it's draining on me. I don't feel like
Hmm.
a lack of motivation to do it, or just boredom. Like,
Yep.
I'm still going 110 miles an hour,
Yep.
and it was more a confirmation versus kind of an
Yes.
inspiration. Wow.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I think, for most people, there is that stereotype of, like, kind of, hey, like, life is terrible, blah 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 blah. Boom! This morning I decide that I'm going to be a music. That's kind of the stereotype, right? Of what
Yeah.
an artist is. But I think it's a little bit more different. I think in
Absolutely.
practice. But
Absolutely.
what an inspirational story! And for those of you who are watching, if you ever uh, want to be a musician, maybe you should give it a couple shots. Go to a open mic, perform a couple songs, see how it goes, and maybe
Yeah.
it'll gradually lead you into that life, just as Prateek has done. So,
Yeah.
but ladies and gentlemen, Prateek, once again, please follow him on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube. His handle for all those things is Prateek Music. If you Google search Prateek Music, he's going to be the first guy that comes up. And joining us right after would be Prateek again, who will share with us a little bit about what inspired him to write Gangs All Gone.
No one likes you when you're stoned. They just hate to be alone. But not so much they'll take you home. Oh, no one likes you when you're drunk. But you're too big to call a punk. You sail that ship until it's sunk. But no one likes you when you're drunk. So find a bar, find a girl, drink your beer, rule the world. Stay up late, drive home high. Forget your job, forget the bills, run your mouth, chase the thrills. You swear that this is gonna be your year. The gang's all gone and you're still here. No one wants to be like you. Bloodshot eyes and a broken tooth. Growing up is hard to do, but no one wants to be like you. So find a bar, find a girl, drink your beer, rule the world. Stay up late, drive home high. Forget your job, forget the bills, run your mouth, chase the thrills. Swear that this is gonna be your year. The gang's all gone and you're still here in this town, where all you do is drown, away from every lifeline you've been thrown. A bottle's not a place to build a home. Find a bar, find a girl, drink your beer, rule the world. Stay up late, drive home high. Forget your job, forget the bills, run your mouth, chase the thrills. Swear that this is gonna be your year. The gang's all gone and you're still you're still here. You're still here. The gang's all gone and you're still here.
Yeah, that is such an amazing song. Like every time I listen to that song, I get chills down my spine. It's
Oh,
as
thanks, man.
cliche as that expression sounds, it's really one of my favorites. So, ladies and gentlemen, Prateek once again. You know, so I know a little bit about this song because this is my personal favorite. It's a beautiful song and it talks about a lot. And I was originally mistaken about what the meaning of the song was. I thought it was about the hardship of being a musician, but I found out it was about something else. Could you tell us a little bit more about the story behind Gang's All Gone and how you wrote that song?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Gang's All Gone. Firstly, in terms of what it's about, I would say it's about substance abuse. And specifically, I think it's about watching someone struggle with substance abuse. And sort of, you know, to like refuse help, refuse to accept help, maybe because, you know, they're struggling with something, you know, that they're not ready to admit yet, or they're too proud. But the story behind that was my brother lived in Michigan for a few years after he graduated from college. And after a few years, he moved back to Massachusetts. And, you know, we were talking, and as we, you know, spent time together, he told me a bunch of stories about some of his friends back in Michigan. And a bunch of them had struggled with alcoholism. And a lot of them, you know, when he was telling me, about them, were still struggling with alcoholism and they'd had a difficult time, accepting help. And him telling me about that really, it hit me in a certain kind of way because I'd seen a lot of people struggle with alcoholism and drinking problems, and various psychological issues and refuse to accept help. And when my brother told me about about, you know, watching his friends go through that, you know, just, it really resonated with me. So, you know, fast forward, several months and I was sitting down to write a song and the phrase "the gang's all gone" popped into my head. So I went with that. And this song just kind of ended up spilling out and I realized, you know, this is finally just like, I had so many repressed feelings about
Yeah.
watching people struggle and refuse to accept help. And this song just, the minute I started writing it, all these things sort of came out.
Hmm. And so the phrase gangs all gone is really kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, to my understanding, it's really about your brother seeing his friends kind of start struggle with substance abuse, and everyone else is kind of moving on with their lives.
Yes.
But they're also saying to this person like, hey, you should get some help, you're having difficulty, and them saying like no. And eventually, I guess the expression is like, hey, like they try and help you, but at the end of the day, you've got to kind of take that step yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's it's sort of, I think you put it brilliantly. Yeah, because people sort of, people, and when you struggle with stuff, and you have people in your life who will actually care enough to tell you, it's like, hey, you should get help.
Right.
They'll only be able to do that to a certain point.
Right.
And it's kind of not so much that they're going to, like abandon you. It's more that eventually, like, a lot of people are going to move on with their lives. And if you're struggling and you don't do something to change it and you don't accept help, eventually you are going to get left behind.
Mm. That makes that makes a lot of sense. But I think that is a very, it's a very real problem. A lot of people have or know friends who struggle with alcoholism and other sorts of substance abuse. But one thing that I know about you is, and people watching right now may not know, is that you actually have a degree in psychology.
Yes.
In addition to your career as a musician, you studied psychology, and you really tend to talk about these kind of more challenging issues, mental health issues. But I just want to go back and perhaps give you, give the audience a little chance to kind of understand what are some of the themes that you kind of cover in your songwriting, and what makes you choose to write about and sing about certain topics. Why don't you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. Well, sort of the first thing is that I struggle with a lot of mental health issues, primarily depression and ADD. So I think that was kind of the reason that I ended up studying psychology in the first place. At least one of the reasons, is to try and sort of better understand sort of my own issues, but also how those issues fit into a larger context. But fast forwarding into the songwriting stuff, I think because I struggle so much with mental health, and especially because I was learning a lot about mental health at the time, songwriting became a way to express things that I often had a difficult time putting into words. And as I listened to, more and more people who fit into like the folk singer-songwriter genre, a lot of them tended to say that same thing, was that songwriting was sort of a way of putting difficult things into words. And it's eventually that sort of, I guess you can call it sort of a duty or a charge. It just sort of a responsibility, I think would be maybe the best word. And the more that I wrote, the more that I sort of got the idea that it's like, all right, it's kind of my responsibility to put difficult things into songs, because it puts, by putting them into words, it can help people feel understood. It can help them feel seen and validated, and that is really important, because feeling alone is one of the worst feelings that you can feel. I think.
Right. So what would you say is kind of your message or your focus in your writing? Like, what do you want to tell? I know that you talk about, you sing about a number of different issues, but what is kind of your overall mission in your songwriting, or what you want to tell the world about your songwriting?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff. I guess it's not so much what I want to write the songs about, but it's more of the idea that I want to write the kind of song where I can play it for someone and I can sort of look the audience in the eye and let them know that they're not alone.
Right.
So if I write a song and someone, after a show comes up to me and says, like it's like I didn't have the words to explain that, like, thanks for that. Then, that's the kind of song I want to write. And I feel like I've done my job.
Wow, that's really great.
Yeah.
And so, from what I understand, basically, you've gone through some mental health challenges yourself, and you
Yes.
study psychology,
Mhm.
and now you feel like it's basically your duty to share with people through your songwriting, kind of to speak up about these issues, so that people can perhaps either feel like, oh, like I'm not the only one going through this, and I can see that there's someone out there who's writing about it, who's gone through it themselves, and I can identify with it.
Yes.
Or it's very much so when you're performing it, you're saying you're not alone, but two, let's talk about this issue.
Yeah.
This is me. This is who I am, just as much as it's who you are. And I can look you in the eye and be true to who I am while addressing something that you may struggle with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A community through vulnerability, if you like.
Thank you so much for sharing. There's no live audience here, but I hope all of you guys are applauding Prateek right now, because I think it's very bold to be so vulnerable, through sharing about mental health issues, some very, very deep issues that you've had in the past, and to be able to talk about it publicly. I think to a lot of people, in some sense, that's the first step. Maybe the first step is not going in front of millions of people and talking about it, but you need to, kind of tying it back to your song, like you need to seek help, and sometimes you need to, talk to a friend or share with somebody
100%.
about that. 100%. Yeah, it's really inspirational what you're doing, and you're really kind of a living proof that music can really help for a lot of these difficult issues that we all face.
Thanks,
and
man.
So for those of you who are tuning in, my name is Matt Yuan. I'm the founder and CEO of CountN. Again, we are hosting this show in partnership with the record company, Boston's very own nonprofit record company. All proceeds from this show will go directly to Prateek, who's joining us tonight, and to the Boston Music Maker Relief Fund. Feel free to make a contribution directly through this Facebook campaign, or if you are watching through YouTube or another live stream channel, at the link below. The first 3 people who give $200 or more will receive an additional song, an original song written by me. I will basically write you a song of your choosing, of your topic, and perform it to anybody that you would like me to perform it to. And then Prateek has also generously given his time, and he will basically serenade the first 10 people who make a contribution to this campaign. So once again, Prateek, thank you for joining us. Prateek is going to give us a performance of his song, When You Were Loved.
Every shadow in the sun, every table set for one, will remind you of when you were loved. Every whisper in an ear, every joke that you can't hear, will remind you of when you were loved. Every lonely open door, every hand that's held but yours, every tear you've cried alone ain't enough. Every leaf that dries and fades, every shorter, colder day, will remind you of when you were loved. Every time you hear that song, every time you sing along, will remind you of when you were loved. Every phone call that you miss, every morning without a kiss, will remind you of when you were loved. Every time you hear your name, and there's no one there to blame. Every dream that disappears when you wake up. Every chill deep in your bones, every road you walk alone, will remind you of when you were loved.
Again, an amazing song with Prateek, "When You Were Loved." Thank you so much for that performance, Prateek. I say that over and over again. We're just talking about kind of the theme, the thematic nature of your writing, but I just can't emphasize how sentimental and heartfelt a lot of your songs are. And as you know, a lot of people are facing heartache around the world. Some people have gone through a huge amount of uncertainty, anxiety. They've lost their jobs. Some people have lost, a lot of people have lost their loved ones to the coronavirus with what's going on. Do you think that the power of lyrics and music could unite us globally and ignite a hope? Do you have a picture of how, as a society, we could perhaps make that happen through music, through community, through projects like these, or through songwriting? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd like to think that music's going to help. I think what's really going to happen is what's really going to make any meaningful change is, policy, pretty radical policy. A lot of essential workers aren't being paid a living wage right now, so that definitely needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of healthcare workers are being overloaded right now. A lot of people aren't able to receive healthcare. So I think it's only by making sort of change in that infrastructure that we're actually going to make any sort of meaningful change.
Yeah.
The arts is going to play the role of the arts in that is to just remind people that things aren't completely hopeless, but also to remind people that things definitely can get scary.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that I want to do something that's going to push people to make a serious change, and there is a lot of change that needs to be made.
And this song that you wrote, when you were loved, how did the song come about, and what's the story behind it?
Oh God, this was one of the songs I wrote early on. Would have been 2014,
Wow.
2015, maybe early 2015.
Am I wrong to assume that it's one of your first major songs that you wrote and put out?
Yeah, we could say that. It's definitely not one of the earliest ones because I don't play those anymore. Those are embarrassing. But it is definitely one of the earliest ones. One of the earlier ones. And it was just I don't know, I was feeling inspired. I came up with that title. I wrote most of it in probably in the course of a night. And then just kind of messed around with it for a while until I liked the way it sounded.
Yeah. So this is very much kind of your you had, we all kind of, as a musician myself, we all go through that first initial phase of trying to write songs, and they're all terrible, and we don't like themselves, and we're so kind of, I guess, ashamed to kind of put it out there. But this is kind of like the one where you're like, oh, I'm feeling inspired, like, boom, let me write it. Not too bad. let me put it out there. Let me see what people say. And people
Yeah,
like it.
yeah.
That's great.
No, absolutely. And there were absolutely songs before this where because I was putting my music out there like before this, but this was one of the ones where, once I started performing it, I was like, oh, this is actually a step up. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for you, it's very much a break, like a personal stepping stone to be like, hey, like, I've been putting out music for a while, but like, this is something that I really can kind of throw at people and they enjoy it. And I'm in some sense, in a lot of sense, I feel very satisfied by that. And
yeah.
it
I think that's the best way to put it.
keeps me going.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the idea of, I think for the audience again, looking, kind of at the life of an artist, I think there is again that narrative of like, hey, someone was, hey, they were sleeping, living an ordinary life. One night they were up late at like 2 a.m. Boom, they had his inspirational song, and the next thing you know, it's like the #1 hit song. Which, to be frank, sometimes that does happen.
Yeah.
But I guess what people don't see is really the, like, hey, I've really got to write 100, 200, 300, maybe 1,000 songs, like really bad songs first, before I hit my first song that's like, this song works. Like, this song, not only do I identify it, not only does it express who I am, and not only is the tune and the structure and all that great, but the audience loves it too. And when I go and play in front of, in a bar or in a wedding or in, in a restaurant or something, people actually are listening. They enjoy it. They may sing along. They may ask me, who wrote that afterwards?
Yeah.
I think that's a really, very important thing.
Oh,
And,
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so I guess now to wrap up for tonight, we have one last song by Prateek. Once again, we are partnering with the record company and Prateek to host this show. You can make a contribution to Prateek and all the local artists in the New England area by donating directly through this Facebook campaign, or if you're watching via YouTube or another streaming link, you can click on the link below and make a contribution directly. Now we have a final song by Prateek called Springtime. Make sure you stick around for the end, as Prateek will share words of wisdom to those of you who may not be involved in the music industry but would love to get involved as supporters. So this last song is Springtime by Prateek.
And the springtime was arriving. Clouds were white instead of gray. Snow ran down into the gutters, and the crocuses woke up to start the day. And I couldn't help but smile, even as my eyes were growing wet. Turned my face to the horizon, tried to slow the beating in my chest. So give me blue skies in a bottle, give me sunshine in a pill. Give me smiles and give me laughter in a jar I can keep on my windowsill. 'Cause when the world starts getting colder, I'll feel a decade older, you know I will. So give me blue skies in a bottle, give me sunshine in a pill. Was it what my parents taught me? Was it just how I was born? 'Cause I'm always counting all the lines around my eyes against the things I haven't done. And every pebble on the sidewalk, every blade of grass that tickled my bare toes is gone, is always gone too soon, to somewhere I can't go. So give me blue skies in a bottle, give me sunshine in a pill. Give me smiles and give me laughter in a jar I can keep on my windowsill. 'Cause when the world starts getting colder, I'll feel a decade older. You know I will. So give me blue skies in a bottle, give me sunshine in a pill. Give me blue skies in a bottle, give me sunshine in a pill.
So give me blue skies in a bottle and sunshine in a pill. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
What a great song. Once
Thanks,
again,
man.
thank you much. Thank you so much, Prateek, for coming onto the show.
Thanks for having me,
That
man.
last song we heard was called Springtime. And before you go, I'd like to ask you one last question for all of the viewers who are tuning in right now.
Yeah.
And specifically for those who are tuning in and who may not know that much about the music industry or what it's like to be an artist or how all this works. What is one thing that you'd like to share with them?
Yeah, I'd say definitely check out bands that aren't super well known. Check out the bands in your area. Check out the bands a couple of towns over, a couple of states over. But basically check out anybody who's not being played on like top 40 radio or isn't in your, your mix daily on Spotify or whatever the main playlist is. Dig a little deeper if you can, because for a lot of the musicians, I know, all of them are great. There's certainly no shortage of talented musicians. There's certainly no shortage of hardworking musicians. A lot of time what's separating them is that one has the money, tons of money to throw at a publicist, and one doesn't. So there's a lot of bands that deserve to be heard just because they don't have, and you might not be hearing them because they don't have John Mayer's PR company or whatever on their payroll. That doesn't mean they don't deserve to be heard. So yeah.
And sometimes it's about as we say, kind of the Spotify algorithm nowadays is the biggest A&R executive to please, and it doesn't
100%
on the
100%
on the song. So
yeah.
But I think that's great advice. For those of you looking at home, there's plenty of talent as we as a company also know, and you might be surprised if you just go to your local bar or to your local restaurant or music venue, and you might I think you'd be surprised to find what great talent there is all across the nation and across the world.
100%.
One final question for you to end on the light note. What is the craziest thing that's happened to you while you were either gigging, performing, or on the road?
Oh man. Okay. So this would have been maybe 2016, 2015, 2016. Maybe 2015. I have trouble remembering my years, but so I released kind of my first EP, and a musician friend of mine and we sort of booked a tour together because he had a few shows that were already happening, and I wanted to go on the road with him. So basically between the two of us, we booked a bunch of shows that would take us sort of through the Southeast. I would meet up with him in Memphis, and then we were going to travel back to Massachusetts, basically, up through the Midwest. So like Kentucky,
that's a pretty
Ohio, Pennsylvania,
a
lot of ground to cover. So for parts of this we were together, and for parts of this we were alone. So during one of the points when I was alone, I was in Pennsylvania, and I was driving to a friend's house where I was going to stay the night, and I got pulled over by a cop for speeding. And so the guy, while he's, doing the usual routine, like license and registration, do you know why I pulled you over? He looks over my back seat and he sees the guitar and he's like, "Oh, you a musician?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "What do you do?" And I was like, "I play guitar and I sing." And he was like, "Okay, sing for me." What? He's like, like sing me a chorus or something. And, if I like what, if I like what I hear, I won't give you a ticket. I'm pretty, is just like, well, I would like to not spend $100 on a ticket in a different state. So sure. Yeah. So, I was dumb enough to do it. And he recorded the whole thing on his cell phone. Sang like a chorus from a Jason Isbell song, and he like recorded it on his cell phone, which I thought was super weird. But again,
that
like
is a little bit uncomfortable.
yeah, it was more than a little bit uncomfortable. But I did, I was like, I really didn't want that ticket. And he did give me a ticket. And I never heard from him again or from any of the police in that part of Pennsylvania again.
Wow.
So I guess he must have just been taking the video to like show his buddies on the force, like, "Hey, look what I did."
Maybe it went viral. You could be the biggest star in that town. With all the
Well, I
cops.
doubt that, but I'm glad I didn't get that ticket.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty funny, but I'm glad that you didn't get that ticket as well. And those can be expensive.
Yeah.
Thank you once again for joining us.
Of course, man.
We now have. I mentioned that was your last song, but we actually have a special encore.
Yes, we
so
do.
We have one final song by Prateek, and thank you for all of you who have stayed with us to the very end. This is your special treat. Prateek's brand new single, "All the Stars." It was dropped on April 1st.
Mm-hmm.
It's available on YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify. You can search Prateek Music, and he should be the first one that shows up. Also, make sure you follow Prateek Music on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify. This is Prateek with "All the Stars."
Turning 17 and you're bursting at the seams to run. Torn up jeans come undone. Sneaking out of sight of mom and dad, grab a smoke. Oh, they know. Summer's gonna leave you stranded with your toes in the pool. The lover's gonna leave before you say you love them too. Counting all the stars in the heavens up above won't tell you how they shine. Just killing time. Turning 39 and the years have been unkind, they say. Aches and pains won't go away. Pour another drink and think about your wasted youth, like a rotting tooth. Summer's gonna leave you stranded with your toes in the pool. The lover's gonna leave before you say you love them too. Counting all the stars in the heavens up above won't tell you how they shine. You're just killing time. Killing time, killing time, killing time. Ain't a victimless crime. Turning 17 and you're bursting at the seams to run. Torn up jeans come undone. Sneaking out of sight of mom and dad to grab a smoke. Oh, but they know. They know. They know. They always know.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this special series with our very own CountN artist. If you enjoyed the show, please consider making a contribution directly through this Facebook campaign or through the link below if you're visiting us through YouTube or another channel. Now we aim to close this fundraising round by next Wednesday at 9 p.m. so make sure you contribute before then. We'd also like to find out a little bit more about what you liked about the show, what you didn't like about the show, and what else you'd like to see on it. So please feel free to leave a comment below. And just for a final gift to all of you, for the first 30 people who make a comment in the comment section below, I will personally serenade you with a song of your choice. Now, once again, my name is Matt Yuan, and I'm the CEO and founder of CountN. Our mission is to help independent businesses build community through live music and to create equal opportunity for artists through innovation and excellence. In other words, if you're looking to book a show as an artist, or if you're a business owner looking to run a music program after this coronavirus is over, please consider visiting our website, www.CountN app. That's COUNT letter N app.com, or you can download our app directly through the Apple App Store. Now, thank you so much for joining us again. We'd like to end with a preview of our guest next week. Thank you.